What's the saying? Bo knows. Well, Bo knows nothing. Bo Porter, that is. Soriano's fourth inning struggles continue, and I don't ever want to discuss Bo Porter again. I'm John, one half of the Super Halo Brothers, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is, and yes, we are. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SiriusXM, all those platforms. Just search Locked On Angels. If you want to give back to the Super Halo Bros for the Super Halo content, leave us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts. Also, hit that thumbs up button, subscribe on YouTube if that's where you're watching. And while you're there, leave a comment. It's the best way to get in touch with us and be part of the conversation. Before we go any further, just want to remind everybody to come bowling with us at the second annual Logan O'Hoppe All-Star Bowl, Sunday, September 7th from 5 to 8:30 p.m. in Fountain Valley. We're helping support the YMCA of Orange County. Get your ticket by clicking the link in the episode description. Use the code HALOBROS, all one word, for a nice little discount when you grab your ticket. So again, come join us, an opportunity to meet Logan O'Hoppe, get an autograph, a photo, meet some of the other players as well, and come bowl with us again September 7th at 5 p.m. in Fountain Valley. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. I'm John Frisch. I'm one half of the Super Halo Bros. I'm usually here co-hosting with my brother Mike. I'm rolling solo today. We've been fans of this team for years, 4 years here at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I keep saying that, and why not? It is your team every day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, we're talking Angels baseball with you. On today's show, what's changed for Jo Adell at the plate from June to July, and how do the players feel about staying and not getting traded? But first, we've got to talk about Game 2 of this series between the Angels and the Rays. Remember, they're playing an early one today, a day game, getaway game, so make sure you're tuned in for that. But before that game happens, let's talk about the takeaways and everything you need to know from last night's game. Jose Soriano had a bad fourth inning after dominating the Rays lineup the first time through, struck out 4, walked 1. Jose Soriano fell apart in the fourth inning. It was a combination of hard hit baseballs, dinky-do hits, sacrifice bunts. They did all the damage, the Rays, on just hit after hit after hit after hit. I didn't feel like it was going to stop. It was 7 runs on 7 hits in this fourth inning. And the problem is, this isn't new for Jose Soriano. Entering last night's game, he has a 6.55 ERA in the fourth inning this year. Otherwise, the ERA in the other innings is pretty reasonable. Not anything outstanding, not anything awful to look at, but 6.5 in the fourth inning, and that's sure to go up after last night's game. He came out after getting the third out in the fourth inning, but he left the game having given up 7. And no one was warming in the pen after, and things were clearly breaking down, to which I think begs the question, and I want to push this out to you, our everydayers. Do you buy some time to get somebody to come in? Or do you hope that he can push through before he gets, hit hard and things get out of hand? The problem is things did get out of hand, and he left the game in the fourth having given up 7 runs. The good news is that the bullpen kept the Rays from scoring the rest of the game. Luis Garcia, Andrew Chafin, Carson Fulmer, who pitched 3 innings, they finished out the game going 5, and only Carson Fulmer gave up 1 hit between the 3 of them. So again, Soriano leaves this game, Angels down 7-0, but it was the fourth inning. And if there's anything different about this team this year, it's that, and I wonder if you feel this too, because I did. I thought they could fight their way back into it. And they almost did. But that takes us to takeaway number 2. Bo Porter, third base coach for the Angels, is a certified rally killer. And here's what I'm talking about. In the 5th inning, Taylor Ward reaches on an air, and Jo Adell hits a 2-run homer. We'll talk more about Jo Adell, of course, and the changes he made at the plate and the things that were different between June and July. After Ward reaches and that home run happens, O'Hoppe walks, Christian Moore hits a double, and O'Hoppe goes to third base, and Bo Porter sends him home. But remember, my friends, there's nobody out at this point. And O'Hoppe is out at home on the play. Great play from the Rays, great relay throw. So instead of runners at second and third, it's a runner at second with 1 out. It was an absolutely horrible send, and there's absolutely no reason for it. You had Ryan Pepiot on the ropes after an error, a home run, a double, and just like Jose Soriano, Ryan Pepiot was cruising through the Angels lineup the first time through. And, there was some feedback on social media when we posted about this, and someone said, well, the number 8 hitter Peraza was coming up, but you still don't send somebody when there's no outs and the potential for runners on second and third. And Peraza got an infield hit, by the way, so who knows if that would have scored O'Hoppe, but even if he grounded out and they did a double play, not a double play, it couldn't have been a double play, even if he grounded out, there's a chance you still get that runner home. But if that wasn't enough for you, here's Jo Adell again getting a 2-out RBI single in the 6th inning off Ryan Pepiot. And that drives in Trout. It moves Taylor Ward to third base. Now Adell, to his not credit, his detriment, tried to stretch it out into a double, but he was going to be out by a mile, right? Fortunately, the Angels catch a huge break when the ball gets away from second base and it tra-la-las out to center field. And Porter, watching this play in front of him, doesn't send Taylor Ward from third base on this error. Now, someone on Twitter brought up the fact that Taylor Ward is kind of aloof, not great in the outfield all the time, not a great base runner, not a heads-up guy. But in this case, and Mike and I have had plenty to say about Taylor Ward, I'm not going to put this on him. Because as he's running from second to third, the play's behind him, and Porter has it all right in front of him, in the famous words of Aaron Boone. It's all right in front of us. Listen, never, ever, ever should we be discussing anyone who isn't a player on the field. Base coaches, umpires. Of course, we talk about the manager and their decision-making throughout the game. But man, I do not want to talk about Bo Porter and his base running, his base coaching decisions, his base running decision. I don't ever want to talk about him again after this season. Because this is not the first time that he or Eric Young Sr. have made poor decisions that cost the Angels the game. Look, they might be great for the guys. They might be great coaches otherwise. But get them out of that role. They can't do it. They obviously can't do it. They switched EY and Bo Porter earlier in the season because they wanted EY over at first. But man, I am so sick of talking about things we shouldn't be talking about when it comes to wins and losses for the Angels. So yeah, I know that it was 7-0, and then it was 7-2, ended up being 7-3, but had he not screwed up on those 2 sends, I think Ryan Pepiot is out of this game sooner. I think 7-5, which it should have been, is a much more manageable score to overcome. And it would have been that by the 6th inning. And maybe it changes the game. Maybe it doesn't. Because, man, I got to say, some of the plate appearances for these guys were really frustrating. And that leads me to my third takeaway. Nolan, what are you doing, buddy? Nolan Shawnuel was not himself at the plate in this one. First at bat, a 2-pitch flyout. Second at bat, a 2-pitch ground out. Third at bat, 4-pitch strikeout swinging. Fourth at bat, 1-pitch pop up to short. Buddy, take a pitch. Working at bat. Run the count full, my friend, as you normally do. I'm not looking for you to go yard. I'm not looking for you to hit a bunch into the gap, I need you on base. I need you to walk. I need you to see some pitches. I need you to make that pitcher who's cruising through the lineup, I need you to make him work. Takeaway number 4, expect Oswald Peraza to play behind Jose Soriano and Jack Kohanowitz over at third base. I appreciated this tweet from Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register, who pointed out why Peraza was potentially starting last night. And he said, although Ray Montgomery wouldn't bite when I asked this specific question about Peraza playing over Rengifo because of the need for defense behind Soriano, that's why I think he's playing. And he's not wrong. In the first 2 innings, Oswald Peraza made some really spectacular plays over there at third base. By the way, I just want to apologize. I had my facts mixed up about the trade deadline. And when we were doing our trade deadline show, I mentioned how the Yankees moved on from Peraza, replaced him with Ryan McMahon. It was because of the bat, not because of the defense. He has tremendous defense. So that was my mistake, the heat of the moment at the trade deadline. Now, they did mention on the broadcast that Yoan Moncada will be away from the team until the Detroit series on Friday because he's taking his citizenship test in Florida. So that's exciting for him as well. So what does this mean for Rengifo, as Jeff brought up? Well, takeaway number 5, Christian Moore had a very rough night defensively. We mentioned that slow throw to first base on Monday that Lowe, I can't remember which one. I think it was Lowe, beat out, and he was a little lackadaisical in getting it there quickly. Last night, he really struggled at second base. And he looked like a kid who was really pressing, trying to do too much out there. I think the circumstances of this game got to Christian Moore. And so in today's day game, again, 107 start time, I wouldn't be surprised if he sat on the bench, they gave him a chance to clear his head, and Rengifo plays second, and Peraza will be at third as Tyler Anderson takes the mound. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, what changed for Jo Adell at the plate from June to July? We're going to get into all of that coming right up. Today's show is going to be brought to you by our friends at Gameday Hue. This is the hat that we got from Gameday Hue, or at least the one I got. It looks like the Angels' home whites. And if it reminds you of that, it's because Gameday Hue makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro team, every college fan base. It's all out there for you. It's all about letting the colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style. It works on game day. It works anywhere in between. It pairs perfectly with what I normally wear. So even if I am not shouting my Angels fandom from the rooftops, you get the hint. You get the hint with Gameday Hue. Plus, if I ever go golfing, I can pair this hat with this awesome duotone golf glove that they sent to us. Somebody's got to get me into golfing. Somebody's got to take me. Any everydayers out there want to make the offer, take me golfing? Because I want to use this golf glove. It's a lefty glove because I'm a lefty. But look at this. If you're on the video side, just fantastic. The red and the white look great with the hat, of course. Now, if you want to get yourself some Gameday Hue gear, right now you can take 15% off with the code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's GamedayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals, so now's the time to load up, let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GamedayHue.com and use the code MLB15 for 15% off your order. This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. So, what changed for Jo Adell between the month of June and the month of July? Well, look, he's had 2 home runs in two nights, 5 RBIs total, I believe, off the top of my head. But he spoke to Erica Weston prior to last night's game, and he spoke on how he felt he was kind of out of whack at the plate and in the batter's box. And with it being a long season, it's easy to lose your swing at the plate. Maybe you get out of your mechanics a little bit, and that's kind of what happened to Jo Adell. He said he was working on his setup in the batter's box, making sure that he felt good as he stepped in there. And just to remind everybody, Jo Adell had himself an incredible month of June. Over 105 plate appearances. He had a 293 average, a 375 on base, a 663 slugging percentage. All of that adds up for a 1,038 on base plus slugging, 27 hits, 1 double, 11 home runs, 19 ribbies, 2 stolen bases, 7 walks, and just 24 strikeouts. And he even continued to do well into the All-Star break. 13 games, 56 plate appearances in the month of June, 245 average, a 730 OPS, 12 hits, 5 doubles, 1 home run, 11 RBIs, 5 walks, 13 Ks. But it's what's come after the All-Star break that has had people concerned. 17 games, entering last night, 68 plate appearances, a 154 average, a 191 on base, a 338 slugging, and a 530 OPS, 10 hits, 1 double, 1 triple, 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, but just 3 walks to 24 strikeouts. Remember, 24 Ks is all he had in the month of June alone. And in 17 games since the All-Star break, he had 24 strikeouts. So it's caused a lot of people to say, oh, great. Is he back to being the old Jo Adell? So I wanted to do a deep dive because, yes, he's had some great plate appearances the last 2 nights, which is fantastic. But I want to look at what he's been doing lately. So when we look at how he handled fastballs in the month of June versus July. In June, he had a 288 batting average on fastballs and a 644 slugging percentage. That's doing some damage. But in July, that fell all the way down to a 224 average and a 347 slugging. So what changed? What caused it to get so bad? Well, you might be surprised to find that it's actually not him swinging and missing on fastballs. In fact, the swing and miss on fastballs went down from June to July. It was 26.6% of the time he was swinging and missing on fastballs. It went down to 20% in July. So it wasn't that. It wasn't swinging and missing. There's a couple things that actually do stand out, and I want to share those with you. The bat speed, how fast he's swinging the bat at fastballs, it fell from June to July, but just slightly. 78.5 miles per hour to 78.1 miles per hour. Now, that may not seem like much to you and I, but it does make a huge difference because everything begins and ends with bat speed, especially depending on how fast that fastball is coming toward the plate. If you're slightly slower against a fastball, that's going to make all the difference in the world in the timing of hitting that ball and how you hit it. So, having said all that, the result of what happened with the slower bat speed, it meant lower launch angles on the fastball. The ideal launch angle when you hit a ball, somewhere between 15, 19, maybe 21, 22. In June, it was 22 degrees. So that's a good launch angle. But back in July, the average launch angle was 10 degrees. So that means he's hitting it more straight on, not as much stuff in the air. In fact, that led to a huge increase in ground balls when Jo Adell put the fastball in play. When he actually made contact, he put it in play. Back in June, his ground ball rate on fastballs was just 24.5. But in July, it doubled. 50% ground balls when he would hit a fastball and put it in play. That's over double the ground balls. On the other side of the coin, Jo Adell versus breaking pitches, sliders, and sweepers, and all that stuff. In June, he was hitting 321 and had a 786 against breaking pitches. But then in July, it fell to 206 and a 324 slugging. And this one's actually pretty simple to explain. We all know that breaking pitches, they're going to run away from a batter or they're going to run in toward a batter. And in July, Joe chased a lot of those breaking pitches, and a lot of those pitches were on the edge of the strike zone as well. So there's a wrinkle to all of this, though. Joe was making very similar contact on breaking balls in June and July, but in terms of real numbers versus expected results, the expected numbers were higher in July than what he was actually getting real results on. So that tells me that there was a little bit of quote unquote unluck, right? Joe was a little unlucky in July. But on the flip side, he outperformed his expected numbers in June, meaning that he was lucky in June. Still good, still making great contact, but he outperformed the expected numbers in terms of the real results he got. And so that tells me that there was a little bit of luck involved in the way that those balls landed for base hits or went over the fence. Again, nothing really changed with the quality of contact, but the results were very, very different from June to July. So what it really comes down to, friends, is this: swing decisions. And you and I just watching the game, I think the eye test confirms that it comes down to Jo Adell's swing decisions. But when you dive a little bit deeper, you can see how those swing decisions and the contact off the bat, they were very different from June to July. The good news, after the last 2 games, seems like he's had a pretty good reset. Seems like what he did to take care of that helped him out at the plate. And to me, I think it's the ebb and flow of being a hitter and it being a long season, something every hitter goes through. So I'm not concerned that the old Jo Adell has returned. I think that the new Jo Adell is here to stay, and he just needed a bit of a reset. And I think these numbers definitely back that up. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. If you've ever wished that managing your money felt easier with Monarch Money, it can feel easier. Whether you're growing your savings, planning a big purchase, Monarch Money puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And it's more than just a budgeting app. It's like a financial command center with levers and buttons and switches, because you can track all your accounts, all your investments, and all your spending in one place. And in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, Monarch Money, code LOCKEDONMLB. Get it for half off your first year. They're already saving you money, so head on over to monarchmoney.com, use that code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get 50% off your first year. Finally, friends, let's have a discussion on how the players feel about staying with the Halos. Obviously, there was a lot of potential trades that could have been made at the trade deadline. We've talked plenty about that over the last couple of days. But let's hear what the players had to say, especially the players who potentially could have been traded. And one of them was Taylor Ward. He said that he was relieved. He said, I definitely feel much more comfortable. The trade deadline was pretty stressful. Leading up to it was stressful. So I'm happy to be staying. I'm looking forward to continuing to go out there with these guys and push for the playoffs. Ray Montgomery said that now things have, now that the trade deadline has come and gone, he said, we're taking every game day by day. We've talked about it in spring training. We talked about it in the beginning of the season. Now we're in August, which is kind of cool, and that we're still talking about it. So my mentality to the guys and their mentality back to me has always been, let's just play today and let the outside noise be the outside noise. Zach Neto, who wasn't going anywhere, definitely had an opinion, though. He said, I like the core that the Angels have built. It didn't go our way at the start of the season, but we kind of started getting going there and getting hot, playing for each other, playing with one another, and it showed who we are as a team. So those are the thoughts from some of the guys in the locker room. I appreciate Ray Montgomery saying our mentality is let's play today, let the outside noise be outside noise. And isn't that what it really comes down to? Is that it's one game at a time, especially now. Early on in the season, you like that mantra of one game at a time. But then also you kind of feel like, well, we got plenty of time to, pick up a few games here, make up for some, 3-game stretches where we lost 3 in a row, right? You feel like you have that. Now it's different. It's August 6th, and these guys have less than 50 games left to play. And in a night like last night, that led to a very frustrating loss, even though Soriano gave up 7, like I said, I feel like they could have come back. I feel like had the circumstances been different, they really could have rallied in that 5th inning and made a difference. Unfortunately, that's not the way it went. And the beauty of baseball is you got a game today, and you can play again today, and you can try to win today. And the Angels really need to win this series if they want to convince themselves that they're going anywhere right now, because I got news for them. A lot of these other teams in the wild card race are pretty good. The Guardians have won 6 of 7. The Rangers have been rolling. They're embarrassing the Yankees right now. Well, Devin Williams is embarrassing the Yankees right now. But all of that to say, they got a lot of ground to make up for. And so I appreciate the sentiment that it's one game at a time, ignore the noise, focus on the task at hand. But here's the question, and I'll toss this to you, our everydayers. And if you want to respond in the YouTube comments, come on over to YouTube, find today's show, get in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. We always do our best to get back to you. We definitely read them all. And on days where I'm not a busy father, I do my best to get back to all of your comments. But here's a question for you. Based on what we've seen this season, the trends, the ups and the downs, where do the Halos end up? And would that be considered a successful season? So here's what I mean. I think this season can be what they want it to be, which is make the wild card. And it might not. It could not. It feels like anything for this team is on the table right now. It feels like you close your eyes and you point in any direction, and that's where they're going to land. And the reason I feel that way is because they have been so hit and miss this season that they could fall flat on their face or they could get really, really hot. Now, it's not going to be a 99 loss season. I think that's not going to happen. That's behind them. We don't have to talk about that. But the fact that they could fall on their face or get really hot, isn't that the problem? Right? Like, in the word of the busiest man in podcasting, our postcast host for Locked On Angels, Gavin Carlson, it's a coin flip. This team is a certified coin flip every night. And when it's great, it's really great. And we get excited. And when it's bad, it feels really bad. And it feels like the end of the world. And so last night is a good example of that, where things go horribly wrong. The defense falls down. The pitching falls down. Bo Porter doesn't know how to be a third base coach, right? All that stuff comes into play. And it's just like, this is the worst team in the world. And then they have a game like on Monday night where they look like the best team ever. They put it all together. Everything looks great, right? And that's the problem with the Angels this season, is the highs are very high and the lows are very low. And so with all that said, as I mentioned, Gavin Carlson loves to call it a coin flip. This team, they are a coin flip. Every night could be heads or tails. Heads you win, tails you lose, right? Some nights it feels like heads I win, tails you lose, right? But I say all that because based on what we've seen so far from this team, it still feels like anything is on the table, doesn't it? Like, I know that there's doubters. I know that there's people like, no, they're not going anywhere. And that's fine. But I think that that's actually just one outcome of many outcomes. The one outcome that I think won't happen is a 99-100 loss season. But of all the outcomes that are possible for this team, it's like they get really hot and they'll find their way into the wild card, or they're going to sink and not swim. They're going to fall on their face. And because of the way this team has been so up and down, it literally feels like everything is on the table. And so I have no idea what this means for the team. As far as considering a successful season, Mike and I have talked often about this needing to be a narrative shifting season. I think they've done that. I think the young guys have done enough to make this a narrative shifting season where there will be free agents who look around the league and go, you know what? I could play with Logan O'Hoppe. I could play with Zach Neto. I could play next to Nolan Shonowell, right? I think there's been enough of that this year where these guys have done enough that's good to convince people to want to be here. So I think the narrative has been shifted. Now, that's the players' perspective of it. I think the players have done their part in shifting the narrative. But when you have a trade deadline like the Angels did, the narrative around the front office doesn't change. So I know I'm splitting hairs here, but here's what I mean. In terms of what's considered a successful season, gosh, I think getting to the wild card and sneaking into the playoffs, like I said they would at the beginning of the year, they have the talent. They just had to put it all together. I think that they could still do it. But in the same breath, I'm not confident, right? And that's, again, what I mean is all the possibilities are on the table. But a 500 season would be successful. A wild card season would be successful. Something better than 70 wins, I think, would be successful. I think that you could consider those a success, a narrative shifting season. I know it doesn't look great on paper, but I think that free agents and players and all that stuff, they do enough research to know that, you know what? I can see the passion that Zach Neto has, and he's a pretty dang good ball player too. I want to play with that guy. So all that to say, because of how inconsistent this team has been, I think they really have to figure out how to not be so inconsistent next year. And because of that inconsistency now, I think every possibility is on the table. Call it a multiverse, right? That's really what it feels like with this Angels club. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Angels on YouTube so you don't miss all the great Halos content, including the best postcast in the biz with Gavin Carlson. He goes live after every game right here on YouTube on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels. Connect with Mike and I at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. I promise I will be nicer to those who actually follow us instead of those who just show up in the comments and have some offhand remark to make about, oh, I would have sent Logan O'Hoppe. And I said, yeah, that's why you're on Twitter and not a base coach, right? Now, having said all that, Thursday on Locked On Angels, the Halos, they did a lot of moving around in the minor leagues, and it included some big names. So we're going to tell you what they did and when we might see some of those players in Anaheim. Of course, Mike and I will be here to give you our takeaways from today's game. Don't forget, early start, 1:07 Pacific time. Make sure you catch that. Until tomorrow's show, my name is John. My brother Mike will be back with us tomorrow, and we'll see you back here on Thursday.